Welcome, Wapplers from around the world. This is a February 2024 Wappler Meetup. We do the meetups every month on the first Friday of the month, and you can keep track of them and get links to the meetups in the forum. Today we have with us Scott Clee from outside London in the UK, who is going to demonstrate his Impress project that is very impressive. Very well named, I might add. And Scott, take it away.
Brilliant. Right. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for inviting me back again. I've been a little under the weather, so I had a terrible night's sleep last night. Exactly what you need the day before you're going to give a presentation.
Worldwide Zoom.
If I'm struggling on any questions, then that's the reason why, and I'll take away the questions and come back with an answer at another point if I can't answer them today. So let me share my screen. There we go. So I think it's that one.
There we go. Wappler and Impress. Very good.
You can see it. Cool. Okay. So for those in attendance and those watching the video later, my name is Scott Clee. I've worked in IT all my life. I spent 10 years with IBM. I spent 8 years working for Barclays in Canary Wharf in London. I spent a couple of years working in cyber. And then over the last 4 years, maybe, I've been working as a consultant, and I've been working with startups as well. I develop software, I develop solutions, and as part of my process, my software development process, I do user-centered design, and in line with that, I use Figma to draw and prototype my designs. And I built Impress effectively for me to start with, and I use it all the time. I use it for all my personal projects, and in more recent times, given the maturity of where Impress has got to, I also get to use it in some of my consultancy engagements as well, which is really nice, especially in the startup world. They can see kind of the value of what it brings, and I'll explain to those who don't know what it is in a second. And so I think the first time I presented on this community, I think, was April last year. I came back a couple of months later to present again, and now I'm kind of getting invited back. So thank you very much for allowing me to come and talk, and let's progress. So any questions at any point, please jump in. Because I'm very familiar with all of this stuff, I might skip stuff accidentally, and so if I do, just stop me and say, hey, tell me more about that. So what are we going to see today? So first of all, I'll do a quick recap of Impress. That's the URL for the website. I'll show some of the new features that I've put into Impress that I use as part of my development when I develop projects, such as cross-device blueprints in Figma using the new Figma developer variables. I'm going to give some shout outs to the Wappler community, especially the amazing people who have provided extensions. I was never really I wasn't a user of extensions much in the past, but now in more recent times I've started using lots more of them just for the amazing capability that's there. So I'll reference some of those and just say thank you to those respected people who did those. I myself have an extension. It's not an extension built in the kind of traditional way that Wappler extensions are. This is user auth. I've made some updates to that, so I'll talk about that. Then in one of my recent projects, I spent a huge amount of time working with AI, OpenAI's GPT models, driving them quite hard from Wappler. And so if I recall in previous meetups, people always asked for examples of how API calls, how they look, how they work. So I've got a couple of examples here. So whether you need it or not, you'll always have a reference point for how you can do some OpenAI GPT stuff from Wappler. The main point being that it's actually quite easy to do, but you've got to find the magic incantation in the first place to be able to know how to do it. So I've included those today, just a little extra in the content. And then I'll talk about a potential workshop and a call to action. Okay, so what is Impress? So I've already said that as part of my development methodology, I use user-centered design. And in line with that, a good few years ago now, I adopted Figma. It's an outstanding tool for building designs and showing relatively simple prototypes from within it, but as a design tool, I don't have a history of being a designer, but I managed to pick Figma up really very quickly and just fell in love with it. But one thing that I always found painful was taking a design and then effectively having to re-implement it again in code. And so one dream I always had was to remove that design to development handover. And so that's what Impress gives you. It basically will take a Figma design, and not just the design. You can mark the design up with certain flags, and I'll show some examples of those shortly. And you can feed that marked up design through Impress, and then using kind of Git as a proxy for communicating with Wappler effectively, it will then produce and or update on subsequent runs a Wappler project inside of Git. And so you can then open that project from Wappler that's in Git, and then you can work with it. And the design that you created in Figma is built and there for you to use inside of Wappler. These show kind of the work that's been done on it since I first put it out there. And the first two releases, so we got the first one there, beta 0.1 back in April, get it out there. I had an early version of Impress, but basically as a local version on my machine. And I could see that there was value for others, potential value for others to use it. So the first kind of thing I did was basically get it live as a service on the web. And so that was the Get It Out There release. And that coincided with, I think, me coming to the Wappler community to present and talk about Impress for the first time. Then watching some of the metrics and the stats and the behavior, I knew that there was a bit of there was too many steps to get going in Impress. And so the next release that I pushed out was the quick project setup. So I did a lot of work around OAuth authentication with GitHub and with Figma itself to be able to very quickly connect to those systems, because that's how Impress works with those. And also a number of kind of wizards in there to really get projects set up really quickly. And we'll create a project or two in the demo shortly, so you'll see how all that works. But one other thing with regards to kind of some limitations, I guess, there was only a certain subset of tools you could use in Figma that's Impress supported, and that was effectively the kind of auto layout and using frames. You couldn't use groups. You couldn't really use any of the SVG stuff. You can still create quite complex and very useful designs with the kind of subset of the features of Figma that Impress supported. But I always knew that I needed to expand it. So I actually spent a good amount of time working on what I call the No Figma Compromises release. And so the goal there was to basically support anything that Figma can chuck at you. And so as part of that, I worked with actually some one or two people on this community amazingly shared their app designs, their Figma app designs with me. And there's nothing like taking somebody else's design and feeding it through your tool to see how badly it falls on its face. And that's fine. I fixed the bugs, added the features, and so I will not necessarily claim that there are no Figma compromises now, but it's started the trend such that the goal here is that anyone with a Figma design can feed it through Impress, and it should come out the other end looking one for one, like for like, the same as the design that they put in. Now, you can build a design in Figma that doesn't really behave very well in a web page because it's not responsive and it's kind of just everything's just statically placed. Impress will still generate that for you, but as I said, it won't actually behave very well in a web page. But there's things you can do, the way you can build a design in Figma that will allow it to be fluid and responsive, and Impress supports all those features. And so if you build your designs in a way where they work on any real estate, any screen size, then Impress will generate that for you, and then it'll work on any monitor resolution, any browser window size, etc. I've put a little icon of myself, a little picture in the top right corner, and the reason for that is wherever you see that in here, I just wanted to kind of highlight that I am one of the primary users of this. So that amount of development that's gone in there, I didn't necessarily do it to sell Impress as a service or as a tool to the rest of the world. It's for me and my company and my software development, and I just wanted to share the goodness that comes out of Impress with everyone else. So there's a few screens in here where my picture's in the top corner, just to emphasize that I use this stuff all the time, and the level of maturity that it's reached now really helps, really makes me happy, I guess, in that there was a long time when I was using Impress to build projects that I would have to spend quite a large portion of time in the dev environment for Impress to be able to fix bugs, to be able to add features as and when I was doing something in Figma that I hadn't done before. I find now that I'm working on projects where I'm actually using the production version of Impress, and it's doing everything I need. So it's really over the last near year, I guess, and it did exist prior to April as a standalone tool on my system. It's really elevated itself kind of from a maturity and hardened perspective. Any questions so far? Nope. Cool. Right. Let's go to the website. So I'll just show you all around. So this is it. It's Impress.dev. The tagline is build no-code apps in Figma. That is true. That is true. There's certainly the ultimate goal that you can fully build no-code apps in Figma. Remove the design to development handover. That is a fact, right? That's what it does. The rest of the stuff I actually borrow from Wappler, because I built Impress to sit on top of a no-code platform, or no-code low-code platform. I think I would have said in previous presentations, Wappler sat in perfectly. It filled the hole that I needed to fill to be able to allow me to focus my time, the time that I had available to be able to build Impress while actually doing consultancy work and project work, etc. I did not want to build an underlying platform for it to work with, and so I think it was kind of a relationship always destined to be. So I fell in love with Wappler and everything that it gives you, and Wappler, and Impress work really nicely together. So fortunately, the byproduct of that is anyone else who uses Wappler is a prime candidate for using some of the goodness that Impress gives you as well. Elsewhere on this page, you'll see that I have been promoting this meetup. Excuse the font. I thought it looked really nice when I was typing it in to start with, and then when you look at it again, you go, "Oh my God, what have I done?" But I kind of still like it to a degree. On here, the art of the possible. There's a few examples. So a live demo of something running. The Figma design that you can feed through Impress to be able to create that. And a one-click install into Impress to be able to create that as a project in the account that you would register in Impress. So it would create that inside of your account. This one-click install or one-click setup is part of that beta 2 release that I did. So we've got a few different examples out here. YouTube video as well. There is a YouTube channel. You search for Impress.dev on YouTube. You'll see the various videos on there. So coming back up here, if I go into projects, this is my demo account. There's a few projects in there. We'll add one in a second. In documentation, I do apologize. It doesn't look as nice as it could do. We'll get around to it one day, but basically there's a load of videos at the top and some examples. But more importantly, all of these things down here are all of the flags that you can add to artifacts inside of Figma to be able to create some form of kind of programmatic elements. So one, for example, is button. You can add a flag in there for button, and then that will present itself as something in Wappler in the hierarchy tree that you can use as a button. So there's a ton of stuff in there, and please do take a look if you get a chance. Support bugs and features are raised by GitHub, and there's a Discord channel for discussion. They're not super busy at the moment, but one day they might be. I'm not going to click on the analytics because there's actually some. This is my admin. This is an admin account, and there's some sensitive data in there. But then there's connections, and this is where you do your one-click connect to GitHub and Figma, etc. Okay, so coming back to here. Oh, if there's any questions, by the way, just jump in as we go along. Right, it's demo time. So for those of you that are aware of Figma and have used Figma, they've done quite a bit of work to introduce or to kind of lean in towards developers. So it is a design tool. It's the best design tool that's out there on the market. Adobe were going to buy them. That fell through because of competition issues in the EU. Adobe have even dropped their own XD platform because really there is no competition against Figma. It's an amazing tool. But they want to cater for developers because they themselves want to reduce that design to development handover. And so, right, where was I? So one thing I wanted to show is that when you're using Impress, there's an old way of creating pages and there's a new way of creating pages. So previously, when I demoed this, here's that client-side chat app that you can see on the homepage. What you'd have to do if you wanted to cater for different devices, desktop, mobile, tablet, etc., is you'd have a page, and the index is effectively the kind of the main entry point for web pages that Impress uses. So you create a page called index, obviously give it some content, but these flags up here, what you would do, they might be a bit too small to see in there. You can see it here as well, but you put desktop in there, and if you wanted a mobile one, you create the same thing, draw a mobile view and put mobile, and then for tablet. And what Impress would do is it would see that there's three different versions there. It effectively combine them and use media queries to be able to show the different view relative to the kind of the screen size that you're viewing it on. It worked really well, and it allowed you to really build kind of quite different views for mobile, tablet, and desktop within the same app. But that's not really how kind of development works for web apps in general. And so I knew I had to change, and that's where I came in and did some work, which coincided with some of the developer work that Figma has done. So let me show you an example. So as part of the developer experience, there's a button up here, a toggle. It's a little bit of a kind of a Figma intro, but they share with you bits of coding here, CSS, all that kind of stuff. It's really useful. What's really interesting is this local variables part in here. So I'm going to show you an example that is not necessarily relevant to Impress right now, but just to give you an idea of what can go on here. So in local variables, I'm going to create a variable, and you can create different types, and in this case you're going to create a color, and we're going to call it background. And then here we're going to go light. This is a mode, and then we're going to have a different mode that is dark. We're going to pick away from red, a fairly lightish one, and a fairly darkish color up here. There we go. So now we've got a variable called background, and it can have two different modes. We come onto the canvas. I'm going to draw a frame, and that frame, its background color, this fill, I'm going to select from, and in this case, it's presented that variable that I've created here, background. I'm going to select background, and it's got the light version of that background. But if I go over to this little switch over here, this layer, you'll see that light and dark are in there. And it's chosen light first as default because that's the first one, the first of the modes that you create. But you can explicitly choose it. Nothing changes because it was already defaulted to that. But then if you choose dark, you see it goes dark. So what you've got here is the ability to build components inside of Figma that can have different modes that you can test and see without having to make any actual kind of attribute changes to those components themselves. And so I could make this a component here, move it over there, have this one, change this one to light. And so it's the same component, because this is a component that just instances of it. But this one is set to show the dark mode, and this is set to show the light mode. Okay, right. Well, how is that of any use to kind of the way that I use this stuff in Impress? Well, let me get rid of those. Any questions? No? Okay, so I'm gonna get rid of these modes. I'm gonna have to keep that one. There we go, delete variable. This time, I'm gonna create a couple of Booleans. And this one's gonna be mobile. This one's gonna be desktop. This is gonna be all device types. Create two more. This one's gonna be mobile. This one's going to be desktop. What we do for all device types, we set both of these to true. For mobile, we just want this mobile variable to be true. For desktop, we just want it to be true for desktop. Okay, cool. Right, what do we do now? So first things first, I'm going to create a frame. This is going to be a page. And as I've already said, for things to work in Impress, you can call your pages whatever you want, but kind of the entry point that I ran with, the first page that will load your home page is index. And previously, as per here, where I had desktop, mobile, and tablet as flags on the different views, now you just put page. And you need this in there because you might have many different designs and frames on this canvas, and Impress needs to know which ones are the ones it should work with, and that's why you add that flag in there for page. So we've got that. I'm going to set it to auto layout, so the stuff we put in there is going to kind of sit nicely. I'm going to write some text, which is visible on all devices. I'm going to make that much bigger because it's too small. Cool. I'm just going to surround that in a frame there, and I'm going to add that into here. So that's visible on all devices. I'm going to create another one. Let's have this frame going downwards. There we go. So in this one, I'm just going to change it so it's visible on mobile. And I'm going to change the background slightly. Yeah. And then I'm going to duplicate that. And this one's going to be desktop. And so let's change the background of this one just so it stands out. Cool. Right, so we created those variables. How do we use them? In this one, visible on mobile, I'm going to go over to layer, and I'm using a Mac here. So on a Mac, it's two fingers with a mouse, it'd be right click. You open this up, I'm going to say that this component, visible on mobile here, is applicable to, it's visible when the mobile is set to true. So there we go, see it there, mobile. Desktop, I'll do the same thing. This time around, I'm going to choose desktop. Okay, so they're both visible at the moment, and the reason for that is that the default option, as per the local variables, is the first mode, which is all device types there. So they're both true. But what I can do is I'm going to componentize this a bit smaller. I'm going to componentize it, and then create another frame, which will have auto layout. I'm going to take an instance of this and add it into there. And so the frame that's containing it, I'm going to go into this switch, and I'm going to say this frame works on mobile mode. And you see there, it just shows visible on mobile. I'm going to take that frame, make a copy. And in this case, I'm going to say this frame works on desktop. And so what we've got here is, by default, this has got all devices. This one is explicitly set to mode mobile. This is explicitly set to mode desktop. I've created two components. This component is visible only when the mobile local variable is set to true, and this one is only shown when the desktop is set to true. And if you look in the local variables here, if we choose the mobile mode, the mobile Boolean is set to true, and the desktop is set to false, and inverted for the other one. And so what that gives us is effectively the ability to see in real time in Figma what a mobile version of this design, this blueprint, would look like on a mobile sized kind of view or frame and a desktop size frame. I'm going to show a proper example of this in a second, but are there any questions at this point?
Are you labeling the frames so that Figma knows which is which, or you how do you do that in production?
As in this label here, where I put page, or this label here?
The label where you put page on frame 4 and 5, there's doesn't seem to be a ID.
Yes. So what I did with these, and it's a good spot there, because I did something on purpose. What I did was I created a new frame, and I inserted a version of this. This is a component. I inserted an instance of that component inside of this frame. So if I click on this frame, you'll see up here, there's the frame, and inside of it is an instance of index page.
Ah.
Right, because it's an instance of this component. So because these are components, if I make any changes in the main component, they all inherit that change. But the reason, and it's a really good spot, the reason that I put them inside of individual frames here is that if I had just created an instance of the component and put it on the main page here, see, index page, when Impress comes into this design and looks to see what pages it should generate, it'll see that there's two pages on the canvas called index with the flag page, this one and this one. And it'll come back and say, hey, you got two of the same things. I don't know what to do here. Fix it, please. So to resolve that, I actually put them inside of another frame. And so this page flag inside of here, unless it's on a frame that's literally sat on the canvas, it's ignored by Impress. So it's only relevant at the top level frames. And so I only want one index, the page that I want Impress to see. And so that's why I literally just have this one at the top level. Anywhere else lower down inside of frames, it'll just get ignored. Did that answer the question?
Absolutely. For a developer, you've become you've become an Impress master, or a Figma master.
Yeah, I love it. I like my Figma. It's I truly fell in love with it very, very early, and I think many other people have. So to continue, this is what we've got here is we've got kind of a blueprint that is now rendering in different modes on mobile and on desktop. And this is using the Figma local variables. Now, how do you use this in Impress? So you've got to do a tiny amount more work, and there's a reason for that. So, for example, if you come to this component, visible on mobile, and it says mobile there, what you need to do to make it work in Impress is you actually add the same, well, it's the same flag because I named them the same, but you add the flag mobile to the name of this piece. And for this one, you add the name desktop. And the reason that you explicitly have to use this in Impress, and I'll show you how it works, what the outcome is in a sec. But the reason for you doing these that effectively mirror what's down here is that I could use the Figma API to get the local variable information and to get this flag and do it all dynamically via the API. But the local variable data is only available via the API on the enterprise license of Figma. And I'm more than happy to get one enterprise seat. In fact, I had a meeting lined up with a Figma salesperson a couple of weeks ago, and I sat staring at myself on a video call for like 15 minutes before I dropped off because they didn't turn up. So the point being, for now until they change their minds, the variable stuff is really useful. And certainly useful inside of the tool itself, but actually to use it via the API, you just can't until you pay lots of money and actually speak to someone who, because you have to speak to someone to get an enterprise license. So you actually need to get hold of someone. Anyways, so back to the workaround. The workaround is, and especially if you componentize these things, then you effectively, once you've done it once, you can just, all the instances will inherit these flags. But we've got mobile and desktop on there. And so this is our page now. So if we come up here and take the link and come back into Impress, go into projects, press the plus button. In order to add a project, you need a Figma design, and then you approve the creation of a new Git repository. Cool, let's do that. Paste in the Figma design, press go. The following repository will be created in GitHub, blah/demo. Cool, do that. So that repo is created in GitHub, it's kicked off an Impress job, and it's running. Error. Typical. It didn't error once at all in the warm-up, but I'll press play again and hopefully it works this time. There we go. All that is it's a GitHub issue. The GitHub repo claimed it was alive, but wasn't actually alive for me to be able to write to it at that point. But it worked once I press play again. So cool. Right. What's happened here? Right. So we've got our Figma design. We fed it into Impress. Impress has done its stuff, and it's created a GitHub repo that contains a Wappler project. So if we copy this, and we go over here, open an existing project. I'm going to call it demo. There's the Git repo. Let's create a new folder called demo. Great. Open, clone. Oh, it's thinking about me opening on another window. No, there we go. That's good. Do the updates. That's fine. So we have this. Right. Visible on mobile. If I make this a bit bigger. Visible on desktop. So Impress is aware of the flags that we've added, these ones, and has been built to effectively behave the same as it behaves on here, where apart from the mode stuff, but it's got preset kind of sizes for mobile, for tablet, and for desktop, and will show the relevant components that are flagged for mobile, desktop, or tablet, depending on the real estate that's available in the screen. It's blank there because it's missing tablet, but that's okay because I've got another demo that shows that in a sec. But there we go. We can open it in an actual browser. Let's open up over here. Come back to, where are we here? There it is. Visible on desktop. Polymorph, mobile, desktop, mobile, desktop. Any questions? Is it making sense?
Cool.
There's a lot of magic going on under the covers here, but what you can see is you've got the ability here to kind of design in Figma these different dynamic kind of versions for different device types. And with the appropriate markup in there, appropriate flags, Impress will also pick up and behave in that same way.
Is this creating CSS as it goes, or is this based on Bootstrap?
So it's based on, so this is using media queries. So Impress is generating CSS on the fly. There's media queries that are involved in this. Impress uses Flexbox that Bootstrap sits on top of. And the reason for that is that Figma doesn't know about Bootstrap. So you can't design something to look like Bootstrap because it doesn't know about it. It doesn't have, you can't mirror that behavior from the design to the web. But what it does know about is Flexbox, because it's got this concept of auto layout. Where's it gone? There he is, auto layout. You've got fixed, come inside of this one. There we go. You've got fixed, hug, and fill. And these are all Flexbox attributes for sizing divs, etc. So I don't use Bootstrap. I use Flexbox. I use Flexbox inside of Figma, and it generates out, when you run these designs through Impress, it generates out a combination of vanilla HTML, CSS, and Flexbox attributes.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah.
So just to kind of show you, so this, how we're doing this time. Yeah, we're doing all right. Show you this on kind of steroids. So this is just a generic app template that I created. It's actually using a lot of the Flexbox capability in here. And in fact, there's some really useful stuff they put into Figma last year around minimum width, max width, min height width, max height, and this wrap capability. And so what that allows you to do is properly build things that effectively mirror what you get in Bootstrap, but just using Flexbox in itself. So what I've got here, a bunch of components, my app blueprint, where it really is, I guess, as part of this demo, where the relevant bits are is in the top here. So you've got a search bar that only shows on desktop. Desktop is flagged over here as well. You've got this one that only shows on tablet over here. And then we've got min tablet. So what does that mean? So if I come back to the presentation for a sec, there he is. So there's different modes. And so I've set up in the variables, local variables in this project, you'll see it's a lot bigger. Got mobile, tablet, max tablet, min tablet, and desktop. And what that gives you is you can explicitly say this thing should only be visible on mobile or tablet or desktop. But there's ranges as well. So max tablet says this will be shown on mobile and tablet, and min tablet is, as a minimum, it'll show on tablet, and then anything bigger thereafter. I can always relabel these in the future. I tried a few different variants. They work, and it's a really powerful concept for building stuff that is explicit for mobile, tablet, and desktop, and/or combinations of them. Obviously, if you don't have any flags at all, then it's visible on all devices, which is the bit that you didn't need to put on here. So back over here, that's the more complicated kind of matrix, and I've got a screenshot of that in the presentation as well. But what you have here is this component. This component has instances over here for mobile, tablet, and desktop. And you can see that this one's got the little burger menu, doesn't have the other items. This one's got the little magnifying glass, little search item, and this one's got the full search box in there as per the attributes that are on here. So with this one, far more kind of grandiose design. Does this one work in Impress? Well, let's have a look. So let's grab that link. Come over to Impress. Boom. Get rid of that. Come back, add a new project. It's going to take about 30 seconds. Any questions while we wait?
No, it's all continually impress, as it should be.
John, I think it was you that questions my approach in the past with the separate designs for mobile and tablet and desktop, and I was like, he is right, he's right. So that's when I went away and did this, and literally it by sheer magic it coincided with the local variable stuff. But so that one worked first time. So let's take this GitHub project, come over to Wappler, add a new one, demo 2. All right, well, let's come back over here. There he is, desktop. Got your search. There's your mobile. And what we got? Yep, tablet view, desktop, tablet, mobile. Now, as I said, for the bootstrappers in the room, this is probably not going to be necessarily come across as magic, but for the non-bootstrappers who use Figma and design Figma designs to behave in a certain way, and then you get that exact behavior for free rendered out for you, that bit to me is a bit magic.
Are you able to give us a glimpse of the CSS file that's generated?
Yeah. There's what we got. So here, There it is. It's got a mixture of IDs that are words and IDs that are Figma IDs. And undercover, and inside of Figma IDs. The reason for that is that inside of Wappler will only show artifacts that it needs that are relevant that you can action upon. A lot of the divs, etc. You might not need to care about. Basically, you can still access them kind of in here, but anything that's a button or a label or a repeat children or repeat and all that will appear in here. And when you have them in here, you don't really want them as you don't want them as Figma IDs, so it inherits the name that you pull through for Figma. But what you don't want, especially when you're using lots of components in Figma, is if all of the items that you pulled through into your design had the Figma name in them, you'd have loads of ID clashes. So it's a balance of unique identifiers for items that you won't really play with inside of the Wappler kind of tree, versus the ones that you are in there do inherit the explicit names that you give them in Figma to make it just a bit easier for you to work with them. So one of the other things that I did, we've just seen local variables. There's also styling inside of Figma, so you can create kind of styles that you can apply colors and fonts, etc., across the board to your designs. If you use those, I've built the CSS generation, so it actually uses CSS variables to group the style stuff into variables. Is that the word, variables? Anyways, so it means that a bit like in Figma, if you change it in one place, it'll inherit it everywhere. You could, if you in theory, go into the CSS, change it in that one place, and then it'll inherit it everywhere as well. So it mirrors the behavior that the Figma gives. That was the goal here. Is make it behave as much as Figma, because Figma is where I spend a lot of my time, and I want that behavior in the web. Any thoughts on the CSS? Any questions? You can see it.
Oh, looks good.
Yeah.
I hate to use the phrase over and over again, but very impressive. What have you noticed with your users? Is there any difference or conflicts between Macintosh and Windows?
The best answer for that is no. And the reason I can say that, if you recall the last time I presented, my brother sat quietly in the background, and then I got him to speak. He uses a Windows machine,
Okay.
and he's the second primary user of Impress, because we do projects together as well, and so he uses Impress as much as I do, and yeah, I've got a Mac and he doesn't, and so it works across both of them.
How about any using Figma through Impress? Have you noticed any difference in like page load speed or performance?
I've never not a single one of my projects have I ever thought that is slow. So it's fast, and one reason for that is that it's as Wappler, the same as Wappler. It's just vanilla HTML, CSS, JavaScript, etc. And what Impress doesn't add any bloat. It just, if there's a div, then there's a div. If it's a frame, then it matches to a div. So everything that it generates is exactly what you need or what you've designed. There's nothing else. Now, there used to be some other bump. I had dependency-wise to start with. I just included everything, but I've done work now to dynamically include in JavaScript includes, etc. So yeah, so I've cleaned all that up now. But for a while it was just to have everything in there. Yeah, it's there's a couple of things that you like. If you inspect this, where are we? I do have to include this thing here, this Figma ID, because that gives me a unique hook into this element. So what that allows me to do is, Impress is not a one-shot gut thing, right? You don't just feed a design through it and then you get stuff out. You can keep changing that design, and it'll keep updating the actual Wappler project. And the way it knows which items in the Wappler project are the ones that it needs to match up with the UI is via that FID, the Figma ID. So that's the only real other bit of bump. I put Figma name in there because in some cases, if I do want to debug stuff, or I just want to look at kind of the inspect mode, it's a bit more useful than an ID because those IDs are not exposed in the Figma UI. They're only exposed by the API. So that there really is the only extra bit of bump you've got in the source, and it doesn't really cost much.
And that bump stays there, but I suppose at some point you could decide I no longer want the connection to Figma and just do a search and replace and remove all FIDs and FNames.
Trivially, you absolutely could, yes.
But
Yeah, and you could remove FName, Figma name, full stop. You don't need it. That's actually it's there for me and anyone else who might need it in the future. But if you're going through that update, the iterative kind of aspect, and I do that a lot. I draw stuff, add a few flags, generate into Wappler, add the plumbing, go back into Figma, add a few more flags. It updates the Wappler project. I do a bit more plumbing, so I'm always going around that loop. So it's, that's why I need those IDs. But yes, if you deploy to a prod environment, you trivially could just tail those out. And outside of that, nothing. There's no other stuff in here that you wouldn't have as a bare minimum in the project.
Do you anticipate having a feature whereby you could deploy it from or bring it in from Figma without those as like a one-way do it once? I don't know, like a bit like minifying your code for production.
If that was needed, I could do it. It wouldn't take very much for me to put that in. If it was needed.
It probably isn't needed because, like you say, the actual overhead is tiny.
Yeah. I've not seen any impact.
If someone views the source, then good luck to them. What's
Yeah.
It would also take away your ability to do design changes or updates.
That's exactly correct. Yes.
Well, that's what I mean by being a one-way kind of deploy
Right.
to break that connection and just say, right, I don't want any sign of the history, as it were.
What's the commercial model, Scott, moving ahead?
So I've got a subscription model for additional service. But where I'm finding personally the greater opportunity is using it in my consultancy, using it for software development for startups. And then through that, not only is it paid work for myself, but also there's involvement. There's subscriptions and involvement in Impress. So it's more as a kind of software development house tool is where it's bringing its value at the moment.
Okay. And on that basis, are you going to remain with Wappler, or do you think you're going to generate on a more agnostic basis?
That's a killer question. Thanks, John. So the answer to that is that it goes back to what I said at the start. I did not want to build a low-code platform. So Wappler's given me so much. Conceptually, as I add more capability inside of Impress, and at the moment it's all manually adding tags, or flags, but there's opportunity to have this visual, a bit more visual building inside of Figma. Conceptually, if you project that forward, there is a point where you could do most all inside of Figma, and you could just generate out an actual run-in project that you then the iterative loop is actually Figma to a live instance. There's a lot more work to do before we ever get near that, but that is it's a direction ultimately where this could go with the right level of investment and time and effort.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, well, I've been looking at Flutter Flow. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it at all.
I've not, no.
It's built on Flutter, and it's quite a very nice environment. It's much like Wappler, but yeah, we're just sort of broadening our view of the world at the moment, and that's something interesting. And I'm just trying to marry all the tooling that's out there to see if we can make our lives easier.
Yeah, well kind of what you've highlighted there, the beauty of what I've built here from my perspective is I do rely on Wappler. At some point in the future, if there was another tool that would be beneficial to support, I could plug that in. It's built that way. It's modular, so I could certainly do that.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So time is ticking away. Let's see if we can come back to the things that got remaining. So there's a screenshot of how you get set up the local variables in Figma for the kind of the full version of what you've seen. Some warnings. So at the time of this presentation today, developer variables require a paid license. You can use one variable for free, but any more you have to have a paid license. That's all right. I paid for Figma for a while because there's features that I wanted to have that required it to be paid. But if you build a design and you're using developer variables, and you share that design with someone, and you happen to share an edit mode version of that design, Figma will automatically add them to your bill. They'll give them a license, and you will be paying for it. And they won't email you. And when you come to review the price you're paying for your Figma license, you'll see that it's more than it should be. And then you go in and you see that other people's names that you've shared a design with are in your billing account. So I've been caught out astonishingly twice by that, because it's so trivial for it to happen. So watch out. You can share read-only designs, that's fine, but there's a quirk in the way that they do the billings that allows you to get trapped. Shout outs. So as I said, recently I've been using extensions. I'll show an example of that in a second. The API file uploads, absolutely. I was trying to do it myself, and then I found this, and I was like, this is what I need. And I know some of you have used it. John, I think you were commenting on the actual post when he first put it out there. So thank you for that. In line with that, there's the ability to write a file and then upload it. There's two different options here. One by Toby and one by another gent. I think I ended up in the end going with Toby's one because of the MIT license and because it allowed me to write files with not just append but create files if they already recreate them if they existed. Effectively, delete them first. So and then advanced login, like that one. I've got some really complex workflows, and trying to debug these things is extremely painful. That advanced login extension that Toby did really makes a world of difference. I'd like to have proper debugger step through debugger stuff in Wappler one day. That would be amazing, but it doesn't exist. You can use that to at least do very useful print statements out to pretty printed stuff out to the log, which is a game changer for being able to debug your very complex workflows. And so I'm probably not pointing this next statement to everyone who's on this call, but there's a recommendation here for those that have not done this yet. Have a go at adding an extension to your project. It's not scary, and it really unleashes new powers. I didn't do it until recently, and then when I did one, I did a batch of them. So I really got I got a taste for it. It's it unleashes new powers, and it's not scary. So right, there we go. User auth. I've done updates. So user auth is an open source project that adds user authorization and authentication capability, including login, password reset, user management, analytics screens to a Wappler project. I use this for every single project I have done ever since I created it. And it works. It's bulletproof to me, as in I've never had a problem with it. What I do is keep adding stuff. So I've added a flag in there for you to be able to disable registrations, because if you want to just add users manually and stop people on a live web thing from registering, you can disable that. I created a new dashboard, which I'll show you in a sec. So I've sped up because I can see the time. And an email notification. So if somebody registers, you can put an email address that you get an email and says, hey, someone just registered, etc. Dashboard, where is he? He's down here. Right, this dashboard you get for free. This is actually the Impress dashboard. So you got real stats here. As I said, Impress is used a lot by myself, and it's used a bit by others. This does not include admin accounts. This is actual other people who organically have registered on Impress. I've not really pushed Impress outside of the Wappler community because I've used this as an opportunity to make sure it's hardened and it's matured, it's maturing and capable. So this is all kind of the impact of the Wappler community and the presentations basically. But you'll see that when I presented first, 17 people registered. When I presented second, another 10 people registered. And then each month I kind of get like 2 or 3 brand new registrations. This one's interesting. This one is when someone registers in 1 month, in any subsequent months, if they log in, their class is a unique user login. And so what you see is I've got, that's not one user every month. I've got people who come back, and they're different people, and they do come back and they do use it. So, but it's not a lot, right? It's not a lot of people using this. Another metric is incorrect passwords, just so I can see if anything kind of weird is going on with security, etc., and password resets. But what we got here is the foundations of a dashboard that will grow, and this dashboard you get for free with user auth. So if you use user auth, this is it. You got it. You can see your registrations, etc. Any questions? No?
Well,
Cool.
Scott, I think you're really onto something here. I think as time goes on, I think more people are going to embrace it, and I thank you very much for investing the time to not only build this but share it with us as well. We're coming up to the top of the hour again. We'd like to keep this to about an hour for our Wappler viewers. You brought up the conversation of extensions, adding extensions to Wappler. That sounds like a very interesting topic, and I'd like to invite any Wapplers out there that are using extensions in Wappler to make a presentation at a monthly meetup. And I invite anybody who would like to present their solutions in Wappler. They have a special trick or solution that they would like to share. Other Wapplers would like to see. The Wapplers like today enjoy watching other Wapplers code. It's kind of there's a million ways to do things in Wappler, and it's a wonderful education experience for everybody. As we sign off here, I wish everybody.
Oh, sorry, Mark. Can I just interject with one call to action?
Sure.
So because I ran out of time, I didn't get a chance to show some of the GPT stuff I was going to show. I'm happy to show that in a subsequent one. But Impress has about 50-ish users, registered users, but 30 of those have never actually used it. They're just signed up. So if you're one of those people, all right, if you have a Figma design kicking around, rename one of your pages to index with page, feed it to Impress, and then let me know how it goes. That's my call to action for everyone. So sorry, back to you now, Mark. Thank you.
So that's wonderful. I would hope that you come back next month and give us a little segment on the results of that.
I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to do some of the AI stuff next month as well.
That'll be cool. Awesome. Well, I wish you all a very safe and prosperous new year. And I'm known as Mark One on the forum. Please reach out to say hi if there's anything we can do to help. And I hope everybody has a great day and a great weekend.
Thank you.
Take care. Be well.
Thanks, Scott. Absolutely superb.
Oh, you're very welcome.